DeSantis has been all over Twitter and all over the place this past weekend saying it was inappropriate. It was the wrong time. He shouldn't have done it. But, you know, on the other hand, Trump's the one who moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Trump's the one who got the Abraham Accords started. I mean, it's really tough to sort of convince pro-Israel voters that Trump's not on their side. I don't know. What do you make of it, Emily?
Yeah, I thought that attack was absolutely silly over what Trump said about Hezbollah. I think the Netanyahu thing is interesting because I think this was Glenn Greenwald had an interesting quote last week about how diversity of opinion in Israel is there's much more diversity of opinion about Israel in Israel than there is in the conversation in the United States sometimes. And it's true, like a lot of people in Israel are actually pretty upset with Netanyahu and the government right now over how so many civilians were allowed to be attacked so viciously when, you know, they have this vast intelligence apparatus that they pay for. So I think that is a legitimate conversation. I think dredging up old irrelevant beefs with him was weird, but at the end of the day, weird and wrong. But at the end of the day, really is not going to do much on the side of voters. And I think it's a whiff of desperation. You can sort of get that whiff of desperation from other candidates who were using that to try to wedge in an attack on Donald Trump because they're still 2 digits down easily in just about every state, I think, over Trump. I mean, I think maybe the closest is in New Hampshire, but everyone is trailing by huge numbers, the first caucus state, Iowa. So I think they're grasping at straws to try to do anything, but I don't actually think that's going to work with voters.
Trump truthed out the following, Eliana. What happened in Israel was barbaric. Now, American universities are allowing or enabling the open hatred against Israel and America. Instead of educating our young Americans, deans stand idly by while subversive groups are calling for a national day of resistance. Not only is this anti-Semitic, it is also anti-American. Good for him. I agree. I completely agree with this. And yet then he went out and he wanted to remind folks of who he actually is and who actually might be to blame in part when it comes to U.S. policy on this dicey issue. Here's SOT 14.
I kept Israel safe. Remember that. I kept Israel safe. Nobody else will. Nobody else can. And I know all of the players, they can't do it. But I kept Israel safe, and I will keep Israel safe. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is where this is leading me. The Biden administration, which has given, I think it's released or made possible something like $50 billion to Iran over the past couple of years, not to mention the most recent payment of $6 billion, which was going to go into Iran's hands, which right now is on hold. Thank God, under pressure from the right saying, and a couple of Democrats saying, don't do that. Now, there is a very interesting lawsuit that Town Hall wrote up today, a woman named Sarah Arnold, recognizing that a Texas federal judge just allowed a lawsuit to advance, alleging that the Biden administration knowingly sent U.S. funds to Palestine, which they understood would run the risk of ending up in hands of terrorists. We knew some of this, but I thought it was very interesting, the details. The judge found that this is from a lawsuit by American First Legal. This is the Stephen Miller organization. They've been doing amazing stuff. The judge said AFL's recent production of records shows that the government, and she means the Biden administration, knew its economic support funding in the West Bank and Gaza was benefiting Palestinian terrorists, thereby increasing the risk of terrorist attacks against the plaintiffs and others similarly situated. So this is, they're going to get more documentation on exactly what we funded over there and how much and how many red flags were posted before we did it. So I appreciate Joe Biden going on 60 Minutes and saying the right things this past week about Israel. Nothing about Iran, but about Israel. But let's be real. These policies of funding the Palestinians, of funding Hamas indirectly, of funding Iran, had a hand in what got us here.
Couple of things. I want to give a shout out to Free Beacon reporter Adam Credo, who wrote a story on this State Department memo that is the subject of that lawsuit, where State Department employees were flagging for each other the fact that they had to seek a Treasury Department exemption to send this money over to Gaza, and said they knew they were taking a risk that this money would end up in the hands of terrorists. So I wanted to flag that. And also,
we mentioned that last week.
To circle back on something that President Trump said, because I think it's important. And he said, no one's done more to keep Israel safe. I do think it's important for Americans to keep in mind that though the U.S. and Israel have a close alliance, Israel is keeping Israel safe. And it is important to Israel that it is responsible for keeping its own citizens safe. It does not take enormous handouts from the U.S. And I think it was a mistake for Trump to say that. It's also a mistake for him to be going after Bibi right now. It's stupid. He is picking a bone with Bibi because Bibi recognized Biden's election, and it's not going to hurt Trump with his voters. But I do think it's a bad sign about where his head is right now, which is still back with bones to pick about who was where on the 2020 election. And in terms of running and campaigning in 2024, it's not a good sign for Trump if his campaign is back in 2020. Moving on to Biden. Look, Megyn, the administration knows it has a problem with Iran. They know the day that Hamas launched these attacks in Israel, every Biden administration spokesman was singing the same tune. They were all on television the same day saying not a single dollar of that $6 million has been spent. Not a single dollar has been spent. Now, it was strange, sort of, that they were all saying that at the same time, but they were trying to get in front of the attacks they knew would come. They know they're vulnerable on this. They know their policy towards Iran has been weak. They know this attack from Hamas on Israel, which is, of course, coordinated, whether directly or indirectly. They know Iran had a hand on. They know this is a vulnerable, weak point for them.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that's also why I think, despite the Washington Post reporting and the Wall Street Journal reporting that Iran did have a hand in planning this, that they met in Beirut with Hamas leadership prior to the attack, the administration keeps saying no evidence, no evidence. Here was the president on that on 60 Minutes last night. Sat 4.
Is Iran behind the Gaza war?
I don't want to get into classified information, but to be very blunt with you, there is no clear evidence of that.
At this point, no evidence that Iran is behind any of this.
Correct. Now, Iran constantly supports Hamas and Hezbollah. I don't mean that. But in terms of did they have foreknowledge? Did they help plan the attack? There's no evidence of that at this point.
I don't know, Emily. I just feel like he's so tied up in them. He's just a continuation of the boneheaded Barack Obama policy to try to be friends with Iran. You know, it's like the mean girl at school who wants nothing to do with you, who'd really like to destroy your life. And you're desperate for her to like you. That's us toward Iran. And it's based in, Barack Obama started it. I'm actually going to go through this tomorrow. And he's continuing it. So I just feel like they have a political reason to say, no, nothing that we saw, nothing. You know, maybe all this other sort of side funding that helps them indirectly, but not directly. This show is supported by Grand Canyon University. Founded in 1949, GCU is a private Christian university that's dedicated to delivering an affordable and transformative higher education. Their vibrant campus is located in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. And according to niche.com, it's ranked a top 25 best campus in the country. As of June 2023, GCU offers 330 academic programs, with over 270 of them online, allowing you the freedom to earn your degree on your time from wherever you are. Their programs are also designed to challenge and inspire you. At GCU, your degree, whether it's a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, integrates the free market system and a welcoming Christian worldview. And they believe that higher education should be accessible to all. Learn more about GCU's programs, competitive tuition rates, and scholarship offers from your university counselor. They're part of the supportive graduation team that's going to take a personalized approach to helping you achieve your academic goals, walking next to you every step of the way. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. For more info or to enroll, visit gcu.edu. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.